Top movies every entrepreneur should watch. Hey, what's up guys, Dan Dravidi here. So I'm bringing you a video that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. And that is my take on the top 10 sort of 15 movies that every entrepreneur should watch. And this isn't really to learn anything, it's just pure entertainment that people with an entrepreneurial mindset will find really entertaining and can really relate to some of the topics. But before we get started, as ever, I just need you to do me a huge favour, and that is to smash the like button and don't forget to hit subscribe. Now, I have always been a massive movie buff. I mean, I can remember going to my nanny and granddad's every day after school, and instead of going outside and playing in the rain, I would watch film. And this is really just my opinion. Like I said, I'm a huge movie fan, and I have built my own cinema room. It was one of the single most invested in rooms in my barn conversion because I am such a movie fan. And when we went into the lockdown, it paid dividend because it was like being at the cinema. I absolutely love it. And watching some of these older films on there is a real treat. Now, this isn't in any particular order, and there is some kind of documentary type films included in this list. What a lot of these films have in common is the journey, the entrepreneurial journey, the resilience that most of these individuals have to achieve their goals. And there is an underlying message in every single one of these, which I'm going to touch on right at the end. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a review and a little bit of my favourite part of each film. So in no particular order, let's get started. Now, one of the less known films about the 2008 global crisis, the global economic crisis, is called Margin Call. Now, I really like this film, and I actually watched it before I watched some of the other bigger, well-known films about the same event. But what this does for me is it does show the impact on a corporate level, right through from a junior kind of analyst right through to the head honcho at the top of the bank, and the decisions that individuals make at each level, and the perception of the severity of the pending crisis at each of those senior positions. Now, if you look at the individuals who discover this, the clever guys at the bottom, they think it is something really bad. And of course, we all know it turned out to be. And as it moves up the chains in the ladders of this bank, and it gets to the very, very top, one of the things that I love about this film is when it gets to the guy who's like in control of everything, he literally just takes it in his stride. It's just another event that he has to work around. And that is all he is focused on. I forget the guy's name who played him. I forget the character's name. It's the same guy, the villain from Die Hard with a Vengeance. And he also voices Scar in The Lion King. And one of the key scenes when he's eating his breakfast, I think he's eating steak for breakfast after an all-night meeting, he is literally just bringing in and positioning his employees, his troops, to oversee the next few years to make sure that his bank survives. The global doom and crisis, the fact that banks are closing left, right and centre, the fact that billions of pounds, if not trillions of pounds, are mounting up in debt. The government is stepping in. He's literally cool as anything, and he just focuses on the solutions. And that is one of my favourite parts of this film. Moving on is The Wolf of Wall Street. Now, if I had a ranking, this probably would be up there in the top 3, if not the top 1. Now, I'm not condoning in this film or any film some of the bad practices where real people have lost real money and they are victims of scams, Ponzi schemes and wrong sales tactics. But taking all of the negative energy out of this film, some of the great moments in this film are in cinema history, and I absolutely love it. It's one of those films that you can put on in front of me and I'll watch the first hour every single time. I think it loses its way towards the end of the film. The next film is The Pursuit of Happiness. Now, this is a obvious one, but it's not obvious as to why I really like it and why it resonates with so many people. Now, if you are starting from the very bottom, you're not starting with any hands out of cash, getting to a point of wealth, success, multi-millionaire status, whatever you want to call it, there is always a journey where people are really up against it and they find themselves chasing their tail, working all hours God sent, and trying to put out fires and jump hurdles all at the same time. And what I love about this film is it captures that journey for all entrepreneurs very, very well. That moment where Will Smith decides to go for the internship, which doesn't pay, and he set out his roadmap to success and what he has to do. And even though he reaches hurdle after hurdle on the way, he is just so resilient and he overcomes them. And everyone who is on that journey or has been through it, including myself, will know that there are moments in time where you think the world has fallen in around you. There is so much up against you, so much that has gone wrong, and so much you need to do and solve that it's just impossible. But if you remain true to your goal, you get through it. If you remain resilient, I said that word again, and this film captures it perfectly. Next on my list is the film Limitless. Now this is a little bit sort of blasé because he takes a drug and it makes him do all of these really cool things and makes him ultra successful. But what I love about this film is the underlying message is that if you get rid of distractions and you literally get things done that you can control, everything, and create an environment where you can then build on something, success will kind of naturally follow. Now, one of my favorite scenes about this, which I can really relate to, is when he takes that pill and he's trying to write his book and he can't even get started, and he lives in what is effectively a shit tip, a pigsty. Now, I'm a bit of a clean freak. I love everything to be minimalistic, spotless, and well organized. And when I have stuff to do, I can't go and sit in my office if it's got boxes surrounding it. I have to tidy it up. And I really love this scene because the first thing he does is literally tidy his whole apartment, ready to create an environment where he can then focus and write his book. And he delivers a great book. Now, this is all make-believe and all fiction, but a lot of this does resonate to entrepreneurs. Getting your ducks in a row or trying to start something new when there is a mess at the very, very core isn't the path to success. It's a path to failure. So controlling what you can control and getting stuff organized and sorted and clean gives you the best opportunity to hit your goals. And I love that scene. It's a great film. There's loads of great scenes, but I really like that beginning part because it does show me that there is an underlying message here to everyone who wants to start their own business, create wealth, and move forward. Next on the list isn't actually what I think a great film, but it's Glen Gary, Glen Ross. Now, I was introduced to this film when I was working as a sales manager for Phones For You, probably about 17 years ago. My boss showed this clip that is my most favourite clip in this film. And it's the scene where Alec Baldwin delivers his speech to 3 really shit salespeople. The way Alec Baldwin comes across and his success and his way of motivating very, very poor salespeople is fantastic. And it's one of the best scenes in any sales film or entrepreneurial film that has ever been delivered. I don't think the film is actually that good. It's not worth watching all the way through more than once, but that scene is worth putting on repeat several times. Next on the list, which is definitely one of my favourite films, is The Founder. Michael Keaton, all about the McDonald's journey from where it started right through to where it is today. I love this film and it has loads of great scenes. And actually a lot of the messages that I've talked about in the individual films and I'm going to talk about on the other films, they're all wrapped up as one in this film. I think from a pure entrepreneurial perspective, this is probably the #1 film. And if you don't agree with me, I think you need to watch it like 2 or 3 times to really get it. And if you haven't watched it, oh my God, watch this film. It is fantastic. Now, there's lots of different things that have resonated with me, and it actually resonates with me at different times of my career, from when I first watched it to watching it when I sold my first company, selling my main company, and more recently, working with partners who do not share your vision. And I think this is one of my most favorite scenes. And it's the scene where where Michael Keaton is on the phone to one of the brothers that he's working with, one of the McDonald's brothers, and they have been really, really resistant up to this point on all of Michael Keaton's ideas to drive the franchise business forward. And this is so critical in any property project that you work with. But when he's on the phone to them and they tell him to get rid of, I think it's the powdered milkshakes, and he says, nah, he's not going to do that. And I think by this point, he's set up his company because he recognizes the value is in the real estate land, not in selling the burgers. It gets to a point where he's done taking their advice. He's done listening to them talk at him. And he has now realized that they're not going to follow his direction, and he either has to continue to try and amend what he believes is right, or he just goes for it. And in the end, by him going for it, the brothers earn more money because he pays them off way more than had they have never done the deal with him. I love this sort of crossroads and this leap into the ability to believe in your own judgment and your own ability to deliver these great results. And I think that for me is my most favorite film. And it actually really resonates with me, because you can be told what to do, you can be told how bad you are at things, you can be told how inexperienced you are, and how so much other things are better than what you believe to be the course of direction. However, if you stick to your guns because you believe that you are striving towards the right goal, i.e. you understand the market, i.e. you understand how to manage spend, all of those different things, and you will end up delivering a better result overall. And I think I've done that several times, and it definitely does it in this film. Great film, great scene. The next one on my list is Boiler Room. Now, I saw this film, I think when I was like 15 on the plane to go and play basketball in America. So I didn't really understand a lot of the factors involved in the stock market and what this all meant. But this, for anyone who has never heard of it or has never watched it, is the real life story. But some of the names have been changed of the Wolf of Wall Street. So I think Jordan Belfort had been arrested and they wanted to do a film about it, but they had to change some of the details so there was no sort of copyright infringement. Now, this is a really good film. It is a bit dated now, and some of the wording and techniques are a little bit cheesy and you won't want to watch it. But there are some great scenes. I love the Ben Affleck scenes in these films. I think there's 3 of them. They're great deliveries of real life examples on what salespeople should be doing when they're learning the trade and delivering results at the end of it. But for me, my favourite scene out of this film is the Vin Diesel scene, where he literally closes a cold call to a doctor on a load of shares. Now, even though I don't condone the bullshit behind some of the techniques, I love the fact that he delivers a great scene to make it look like he is thinking on his feet. So I love this scene for the content, but I think I love it more for the way it's delivered by Vin Diesel. But great film, and again, it has that, for the main character, that journey, that arc of starting with nothing, finding something you're good at, and never ever letting go. Next on my list is the Donald Trump 3-part series on Netflix, I think it is. Now, whether you're a fan of Donald Trump or not, this is actually a really good sort of 3-part series, a short film. And there's lots of facts in there, lots of ways he sort of got things that could have scuppered his plans on things like the Trump Tower and all of those bits and pieces. But what I really love is there's one moment in this where he's got like 2 or 3 casinos, and then I think he's trying to buy the Crown Plaza, and money is really short. And he is literally, one of his former managers is literally saying to the camera, yeah, Donald Trump was on the phone ringing people, ringing businesses, ringing different organizations that he owned, saying, how much money have you got in the bank? Right, 1.5, send me that money. And this was in a moment of crisis where cash flow was really tight. And he wasn't only just trying to batten down the hatches and save his businesses because cash flow was short. He was trying to buy another deal, and he was pulling in money left, right, and center. Now, I can really relate to this, because when you're buying multiple deals and then another great deal comes up, you should never turn around and say, oh, I'm too busy to do a great deal. A great deal should take precedent. But that does overstretch you sometimes, and it isn't a great position to be in. That feeling when you come out of it is fantastic, and when you deliver the results, it's even better. And I really like this because even when you're playing up there at a billionaire's level, it still happens, albeit the numbers are a lot bigger. So worth the watch, and watch out for that scene. And then before I give you my last take on the last film, I'm just going to reel off some of the films that I could talk about. But look, we don't want to sit on here for literally hours on end. But some of the ones I haven't talked about but are worth watching are Casino, one of my all-time favourite films. Very violent, a gangster film, but it does have a great entrepreneurial spin on it. The Social Network, again, one of the top 3 entrepreneurial films that you can watch. A great, great watch. Wall Street 1 and 2, again, I think are really good. I wasn't a huge fan of the second one. I felt like that sort of jumped around a little, but I really like the first one. And it's great to see how inflation has worked since the 2 films. Because when you're watching film 1 and he's talking about becoming a player, 50, 100 million, and then by the second film, 50, 100 million doesn't cut it. It's about being a billionaire. I really, really like that. So it's great to sort of see in the past sometimes, and a great reminder of how inflation will always pay you dividends. And property is a massive, massive player in that. Bought a property in the 1980s, what is it worth today? Lord of War, love this film, love Nicolas Cage in it, love the fact that his entrepreneurial journey is brilliant, but the commodity that he trades in, unfortunately, is guns. But what he does, how he comes across different people, when he meets the really experienced gun trader, and then later down the line when he's got the upper hand, he wants to work with him, but he no longer needs to. I think resonates in so much in business in today. And even though the commodity is something we'll probably never ever work with, you can literally pick up his way of working and adapt it to any form of business or product. Steve Jobs, the Ashton Kutcher film, I really, really like that one. I wasn't a fan of the other ones, the Michael Fassbender one, but this one really captures the entrepreneurial drive and then his struggles in corporate life where he's removed and then replaced and then brought back again. Great film. There's a documentary on Netflix called Fyre, a real life documentary of literally a rogue trader, a scam artist who scams millions of pounds out of people to invest in this fair. In this festival on an island in the South Atlantic, I think it is, and he literally scams millions out of would-be festival goers who arrive, and it is a complete disaster. This is a really good example of knowing when you need to stop and not always just never giving up. Internship, really good film, very, very much repeat of what I've talked about in other films, but worth a watch because it's a really, really good performance by 2 great actors. American Gangster, again, forget the violence, forget the gangster culture, forget the commodity, which is drugs. The whole rise from next to nothing is a great watch. Very similar to that, but probably predates it a good 10 years, is Blow with Johnny Depp. I absolutely love this film. A real rags to riches story. Unfortunately, it happens to be drugs, but a really great, great film. War Dogs, Rocky 3, Yes Man, Secret of My Happiness, an old school film there with Michael J. Fox. The film The Secret, all great, great films to watch, so do give them a look. Okay, so I'm just going to finish on not my favourite film, but it's probably more relevant to all the property people watching this video, and that is The Big Short. Now, this is another film about the 2008 global crash, the global economic crash. But this one really does pinpoint about where it started and who saw it starting, or who saw it at the earliest stages, and how they made a lot of money out of it. Now, even though a lot of people suffered and lost a lot of money in this, I'm not actually going to talk about the headline journeys of the successes in that film, even though it is worth watching for that. What really, really got me in this film was the ability of governing bodies to rebrand or revalue these bundled up mortgages, and how they are perceived as just numbers on a bit of paper wrapped in with some good deals, but a lot of them are bad, and they can literally try and manipulate them to sell them on to investors. It's literally grabbing numbers which are actually individual people's, individual mortgages, individual lives, and wrapping them all up as and trying to make them all look better so they can sell them on to the same market. The people that they're selling these bonds and everything to are the same people who are paying their mortgages. These are individual retail investors. And I really learned a lot from this film. Not because it was a great way to time the market, which is a good lesson from this, or a great way to stick to your guns when you know you've seen something that no one has, but when you put your money with large institutions, you are actually relying on individual people who are either bankers, salespeople, or corporate career-driven individuals. And they are really there just looking after themselves. Even though you might believe what they're going to tell you, and even though their track record might be really good, it only takes one global set of circumstances to not only lose a lot of money, but also risk having things like your home taken away. And that, for me, shouted at me really, really loud and clear that I will only ever be in control of my own investments. Yes, I invest in property. Yes, I have trade and businesses. Yes, I have money in the stock market and cryptocurrency, but it is all done on my terms. I only ever buy into funds and stocks and companies that I believe in, that I've done the research in, or I think is worth the risk. But look, that's it from me. So a really light-hearted, quick review of some of my favorite entrepreneurial films. And if there is any more that you want to discuss, feel free to put it in the comments. If there's any scenes in the films that I've said about that were your favorites, I'd love to hear from you. Just put me a comment below. But look, that's it from me. I hope you found the content rich, and I'll catch you all on the next video.